Well, well, well. Look what the tide washed up. That's how it started for me standing there on my deck, the sea breeze barely cutting through the heavy smell of expensive perfume and old money entitlement when I heard that voice slice through the morning like a chef's knife through pound cake. I hadn't even seen her yet, but I knew this was the kind of woman who expected the world to step aside just because she snapped her fingers. A piece of driftwood thinks it can plant roots in Paradise Grove. How quaint. I should have known that was my welcome mat Paradise Grove style. I was halfway through my first mug of coffee, just admiring the way the sun was painting gold streaks across my battered little fishing cabin, when this woman materializes from behind a spotless white Mercedes that somehow snuck into my gravel driveway without a sound. I didn't even have time to lower my mug before she introduced herself like she was addressing troops. Sir, I'm Celeste Harrington, president of the Paradise Grove Homeowners Association. And let me tell you, she marched out of that car in a suit so pink it would have sent Barbie running for her sunglasses with a tape measure in one hand and a folder in the other one a tool, the other a threat. This structure violates 14 community standards, she announced, waving that folder around like she was swatting flies. You have 72 hours to comply or face immediate legal action. That folder, I swear, if you dropped it, it'd probably crack a sidewalk. Every page was another way my peaceful little corner apparently offended her perfect order. She didn't even look at me, just stared at my cabin like a coroner examining a crime scene, like she was trying to find my fingerprints on a murder weapon. Now, my hands, they're the kind that still carry the scars from a lifetime of construction work, and those calluses, they're a reminder that I've always solved my problems with tools, not lawsuits. Still, I took that notice, and something in my old military brain just kicked right in, like I was back reading mission reports that might mean the difference between disaster and walking out alive. So I scanned that list: unauthorized sighting, non-standard windows, excessive maritime character, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, and I just started to smile. The kind of smile you get when you've seen real trouble and know the difference between a storm and someone blowing smoke. I set my coffee down. Slow, steady hands, steady heart, and pulled out an old document from my bag. The kind of bag that's been more places than most people have. This cabin, I told her, comes with something your HOA might find interesting. I unrolled that parchment right across the porch rail edges, soft as old flannel, the script neat and deliberate, and a seal in the corner that's seen more history than this whole neighborhood. Territorial governor stuff. Predates. The state predates any homeowner association you could dream up after one too many wine spritzers at the developer's office. Before we go any further, I told her, take a look at this. And before we dive into the real mess, let me just say, smash that like button if you've ever tangled with an HOA that thought they ran more than their mouths. Subscribe, because what you're about to hear is the biggest property shock this little town's ever seen. Seriously, let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Ever deal with this kind of nonsense? Drop your country, your city, your story. I want to see how far this craziness travels. Back to the action, Celeste. Her face went pale faster than a sandcastle at high tide. Her whole iron lady act cracked like a cheap vase. She fumbled her tape measure so hard it clattered off the porch, probably startled a seagull 3 blocks away. That's impossible, she stammered, and for a second I actually felt bad. Our title company verified all boundaries in 2019. Richard, get over here. She summoned her backup like a general calling in the cavalry. From that ridiculous HOA trailer, 5 years temporary, my foot out comes. Richard Blackstone. Suit pressed hair, slick eyes darting like he's seen a ghost. He glanced at the document, back at Celeste, then at me, then back at the paper again, like maybe if he blinked hard enough the words would rearrange themselves. Celeste, we need to discuss this privately, he said, voice all calm and smooth like a guy who's made a career out of disappointing rich people gently. But Celeste, she wasn't about to back down. If anything, it just made her double down. You could see it. Her spine straightened, her jaw set, and that tape measure popped right back into her hand like a gunslinger. Verification won't change the fact this structure is an eyesore damaging property values, she barked. Emergency HOA newsletter goes out this afternoon. You could feel the threat hanging over us. Social warfare, isolation, the whole playbook. She jumped in her Mercedes, probably felt like she'd dropped a nuke on my world and sped off without ever seeing the grin on my face. That night, the campaign began newsletters in every mailbox, the kind with big red urgent letters you'd expect for a hurricane, not a new neighbor. The message, unverified newcomer disrupting property values. Residents advised to avoid contact until resolution. Psychological warfare, pure and simple. Neighbors who waved last week suddenly found somewhere else to be. Conversations died when I walked into the market. Even sweet old Mrs. Weatherbeebe, who baked me cookies on move-in day, wouldn't look up from her petunias. The mailman left packages at the end of my drive like he was delivering to a leper colony. Thing is, I've seen these tactics before. Places where real isolation meant life or death. This wasn't going to rattle me, but they didn't know that. They also didn't know that parchment was just the tip of the iceberg. That night I felt it danger. The hairs on my neck stood up. I caught movement outside, flashlights circling my cabin, voices low, systematic, like they were casing a bank. Document everything. Foundation issues, safety violations, anything we can use. They snapped photos, measured angles, tested railings, hungry for a reason to force me out. Morning came and so did the paper blizzard. Violation notices taped to every surface, fluttering in the breeze like a row of white flags at a lawyer's convention. They cited everything mailbox, too crooked driftwood, creating navigation hazards, herb garden, violating landscaping uniformity. But here's where they slipped one notice, had the wrong address. Not mine. They were panicking now, and you could feel it. And just when I thought it couldn't get stranger, up walks Sterling Whitfield, community banker, silver fox suit so sharp it could cut glass. Heard you might need renovation financing. Special rates for establishing community members. His handshake was warm, but his eyes were ice cold. No land truly belongs to us. The bank just loans it for a while. Some people understand that better than others. Friendly advice, right? Sure, but that smile, there was something else behind it, like he knew a whole lot more than he was saying. After he left, I did my homework. Turns out his bank financed every major development in this town, HOA office, foreclosed properties, all of it. Properties seized for violations and sold cheap to development companies that traced back through a mess of shell corporations to, you guessed it, Sterling Whitfield. This wasn't about paint colors or lawn gnomes. It was about property, money power, a whole system designed to squeeze out anyone who couldn't play ball. The legal battle kicked off next morning. The HOA filed with the county clerk, halt occupancy, investigate, title, structural assessment, the works. Paperwork flew like confetti. They had evidence, expert opinions, a whole arsenal. But buried in the paperwork, I found the smoking gun emails between Celeste and the so-called investor group. Cold clinical current occupant represents minimal obstacles, financing confirmed. And right there, bank cooperation is essential. Whitfield understands the stakes. So it all clicked. This wasn't about me. This was a machine that had rolled over plenty of folks before me. Manufactured violations, legal pressure, banking threats, buyouts at bargain basement prices. Predatory, absolutely. Legal, only on paper. I wasn't their first rodeo, but I'd be the last. Emergency board meeting, everyone in town packed into the community center, Facebook Live, legal eagles flapping everywhere. Celeste strutted up, gave her big speech about threats to community character, investment values, harmony, blah, blah. Richard paraded out his charts, diagrams, legal mumbo-jumbo, laying out their case every little way I'd destroyed their community's visual harmony. The room was on her side for about 5 minutes. Then I stood up slow and steady and unrolled that original territorial map, edges yellow seal, still visible, boundaries drawn when the state was nothing but wild. Before you vote, I said you might want to see this. The room went dead silent as I laid it out. According to records from 1847, this shoreline, 2.3 miles of it, has been owned by the same line since before Oregon was a state. Your HOA sits on my waterfront. Cue panic. Celeste adjourned the meeting in a heartbeat. But the crowd wasn't going anywhere. Folks started asking questions, murmurs turning into arguments. Maybe those HOA fees they'd paid for shoreline access were for something that never even belonged to the HOA. Cracks appeared in the foundation, and suddenly the invincible board looked a whole lot less sure of themselves. If you've ever watched someone you trusted exposed in public, you know the feeling, betrayal, confusion, maybe a little hope. Leave a comment if you've ever seen a secret like that blow up. Because trust me, the fallout was just starting. Next morning, Real County inspectors at my door, not clipboard warriors. Anonymous complaints. Insurance dropped me pending ownership verification. The bank demanded a loan review. The pressure was institutional now. No more HOA games, just raw legal financial muscle. But in going nuclear, they set off a different chain reaction. Because once you get real inspectors, real lawyers, real government involved, everything has to be documented, revealed, opened up for all the world to see. That's when I found the money trail. Public record shell companies' HOA dues funneled through dummy corporations, all ending up right back in Sterling's accounts. The whole racket, HOA violations, triggering code enforcement insurance, canceled foreclosure, bank financing for the developers' properties snapped up at pennies on the dollar. 23 families lost their homes this way in 5 years. This was a machine. I filed a lis pendens, froze every property transaction in Paradise Grove until the courts sorted out who really owned what. Now they had to open their books, every record, every deal, every assessment under the microscope. Celeste and Sterling thought they were playing chess with a pigeon, but now they'd called in the feds. Courtroom was packed, media regulators, folks who'd lost homes. Judge Morrison, tough as nails, no patience for games. Sterling's lawyers tried their best territorial grants. Don't supersede modern law. But by opening the case, they opened discovery. Every shell company, every transaction, every crooked deal exposed. Federal agents connected the dots. HOA violations to insurance, cancellations to mortgage defaults, to foreclosure, to the same people buying up the land over and over. Sterling's community bank wasn't a bank, it was the headquarters of a real estate heist. And then boom, arrest warrants. Sterling Whitfield, you're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, money laundering. Celeste got hers too. Conspiracy, fraud, racketeering. The HOA dissolved by federal order restitution for families who'd been robbed. Suddenly, property values shot up. Folks were free to paint their houses, any color, plant what they wanted. Let kids play in the street without fearing a violation for chalk drawings. Now here's the real kicker. Paradise Grove wasn't the only place. Letters started rolling in from all over, people facing the same playbook, the same intimidation. And now with legal precedent, the feds are watching for this everywhere. HOA, boards, banks, everyone knows the game's up. That old fishing cabin still stands, still needs paint, windows, still odd sizes, and yeah, the maritime character is as excessive as ever, but it's free, it's real, it's mine. Justice didn't look like revenge. It looked like restoration, real community, real ownership, and a big warning to anyone who thinks profit justifies trampling people's rights. If you're still here, drop a Scales of Justice emoji, hit that like and subscribe, and tell me what's more important, following the rules or standing up for what's right. Let's talk about it down below. And hey, never let anyone measure your dreams with a tape measure. That's one HOA rule I'll keep breaking every single day.